Welcome. This is Mohammad Shafiullah, and I am here with another social work class. Today's topic is social legislation. Uh, in this coronavirus situation, we are running online classes, and I think you are enjoying. Today's topic is what is social legislations. So, first of all, we'll see what are the learning objectives of this class. In this class, we'll learn what is legislation, that's mean ain, and what is social legislation, that's mean সামাজিক আইন, and the difference between legislation and social legislation. At the end, we'll give you some example so that you can understand the concept of social legislation very clearly and make differentiate between these social legislations and normal legislations. So, what is legislation? What is ain? I think it is clear to you that legislations or ain is is some collections of some rules and regulations. It talks about punishment in case of violations of any articles of these rules, and the rules are enacted by state, particularly by parliament, and sometimes it may happen by the ordinance of precedence when parliament is not active, and the purpose of the legislation is to maintain the law and order situations and to obviate some social issues, social problem, and create the society peaceful and maintain the law and order. So now we'll see what is the social legislation. What is the social part of legislations? Think about first. Social legislation is a legislation, no doubt. Definitely সামাজিক আইন হচ্ছে একটি আইন. But all legislation is not social legislation. Why? Because social legislation addresses social issues. See here, for example, dowry, যৌতুক, acid violence, child labor, women repressions, drug addiction, juvenile delinquency. There are so many social issues. If these things are not taken care about, if these social issues is not addressed properly, then it may create chaos in the society. It may deprive this particular group of people from their rights. So country need to legislate, to enact some laws so that laws can safeguard their rights, provide them basic necessities they require. For example, Bangladesh Tilden Act. It was first enacted in 1974, then amended completely in 2003, and there is little amendment in 2018 also. So what is the main feature of this act? See, first, the age of child. It is 18 years. This is the very vital part of this act, defining the child, in what age a person will be identified as a child. The law says it would be up to 18 years. That indicates that all the facilities, all the rights of children will be provided to the person who ages below 18. And what is the benefit? Say, for example, prohibition. Prohibition is a very important part. When a crime happened, then in normal law says that a children will be treated like a criminal and they will get punishment. But social law says that, social legislation says that no, the children should not be treated like an adult. So they will be separated from adult. There should have tribunal for children, and it should be maintained so delicately, so carefully, so that children may understand that it's a crime and they get the chances to solve his character, to perfect his character and to develop his career, his employment, his rights, etc. And this act completely prohibited any types of child labor, violence against labor, child trafficking, etc. So this is the character properties of a social act. That means it safeguards a certain portion of a community so that they can get their right. Another social act is called the Prevention of Omen and Children Repression Act. বাংলায় আমরা যেটা what we say in বাংলা নারী নির্যাতন নারী ও শিশু নির্যাতন দমন আইন. It was enacted in 2000. It leaves huge impact. For example, as you know that in Bangladesh and in any South Asian countries, if you notice, there are incidences of violences, tortures against women and children. It's a common, it was a very common thing. But this act came with huge features. First, the merit of this act is it's connected the kids with women, because not only women, when the violence against women happen, kids are affected. So there is a special tribunal for this under this act to deal with the complaint of violence against women, complaints of dowry, complaints of acid throwing, complaints of any types of torture against women. So, and the punishment is very strict. For example, in case of rape, the rape is a severe violence against women. So in terms of rape, the punishment is lifetime, jabot. So punishment is very strong, and the act include all types of torture. It can be physical, or it can be mental, it can be sexual harassment, any types of torture that is included in this act. So what is the other act that says the same thing? For example, Dowry Prohibition Act, যৌতুক নিরোধ আইন. It was first enacted in 1980 and it was corrected, abolishing this act. Newly it was enacted in 2018, the very recent years. So in our society, if you read the story of Rabindranath, written by Rabindranath, what you can see, there is dowry everywhere. You have read certainly Hoymunti, Shoshi, and lots of story by Rabindranath, by other writers. That indicates that in the earlier society, dowry was a huge problem, and it was in Bangladesh 1980, 40 years ago, and the act was enacted to prohibit the dowry. But and it almost worked very well, and dowry is not a commonplace. It is very rare. So it is a time to redefine. So in 2018 it has redefined, but the main fact is the law, the act, the legislation helped to remove this social problem. Another example, I'm talking about 1829, 200 years ago, there was a very dynamic act. It's called abolition of Sati Protha. What was the Sati Protha? As you can see in the picture, when a husband died, the widow, the wife of the dead husband, should go to the Chita so that they can go to heaven. So it was a religious things and social things, and it was a heavy social problem, because woman is killed without any justifications. So, and killings have no justification, definitely. And so the act was enacted by the England when by that time of Indian British, who were ruling this country in 1829. And there was another thing, when there is when the Sati Protha is abolished, there no wife of a dead husband is need not to walk to the chita of the dead husband. So what would be the destination of that wife? Because that time there was the huge incidence of early marriage. So if a husband died in think about in if his husband died leaving his wife at the age of 20 or 30, so how the wife will live his entire life without husbands, without having the livelihood, any house or address. So the Remarriage of Widows Act, it was enacted in 1856, and it is not enacted easily, for the act like the provision, the abolition of sati, the act like Hindu marriage remarriage act like dowry, or act like uh, uh, prevention of women and children, or act like Bangladesh Children Act. All these acts definitely enacted in parliament and definitely elected by legislator, but there was social action, there was lots of social movement to make it happen. For example, in case of uh, remarriage of widows, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, we know about that very literary person. He raised this huge movement through writing and through everything. Even he gave his son married to a widow to set an examples, and in anyhow it happened. The Raja Rammohn Roy was the focal person to make sure the abolition of Sati Protha, and definitely it was enacted by the British Parliament, but there was social movement, there was a need inside the society to abolish this torture against women. So even the laws enacted in 2000 to prevent the violence against women and children, it was also as a result of social movement happening inside the country, felt by the women community, felt by the literate people, that it should not be continued. Even the children were everywhere earlier. Their education, their livelihood, and it was not properly taken care of the society. But the act happened as a result of right activists, because they ran their movement as a result of lots of social movement, lots of writing, processions, postering, TVC, etc. So what is the role of these types of act? These types of act plays very impactful role to remove the social problem and to make a society peaceful. So this is the all about my today's class, and thank you everyone for attending these classes. So this way I am trying to take classes to you. If you have any suggestions, please leave your comment here about this lecture, about this topic, or the earlier topic I have discussed earlier. Even if you have any suggestion to make for me for taking the further classes, future classes, please put your suggestions later. So let me sum up my total lecture. What is the sum up? What is the last word from this lecture? The last word is that there is social problem, and there is movement inside the society, there is need inside the society, and there is lots of writings, there is lots of drama, there is lots of TVC, lots of processions, postering, day observation, etc., to remove this social problem, to make the people aware of the social problem, etc. But it cannot be happened unless there is an act, unless it is recognized by the state and that definite measures is taken by the state. So this way the social legislation plays very vital role to remove the social problems, to make the society peaceful. Thank you everyone for attending this class.